Hey, everybody from the Mike Wagner Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful actress and CEO of Intent Entertainment, Penny Pants Productions, and co-founder of 511 Productions. I think I got that right. And she knows how to do everything and doesn't need an adult to tell her what to do. She's based on and just has a fantastic sitcom. It airs on Amazon Prime. It's basically a sitcom meets how-to video. I mean, you see the how-to videos you see on YouTube and Vimeo and all kinds of platforms, but this is a sitcom that just meets all this, just gives you life's little lessons, but yeah, there's a little story behind it. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful New York City, ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful actress of Adulting with Jane, Jenny Paul. Jenny, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
I love it. It's very Truman Show. I love it. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, I do it for a good reason, because I usually say good morning, but then someone on the other side of the Atlantic says, no, it's afternoon, no, it's evening. And I just said, heck with it. I'll be the Truman Show. And thank God I did watch it. And I think I'll be on number 6 very soon, taking on a different meeting. And wisely say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. So I'll have to write and he'll probably get an answer on that. So you're the actress, CEO of Intent Entertainment, Penny Pants Production, co-founder of 511 Productions. You've got a brand new sitcom called on Amazon Prime, Adulting with James. It's a comedy sketch, and you've got a lot of great episodes out there. And you also had some experience as well, too, that you also played in Looming Tower, Jessica Jones, That Reminds Me, Dead Lair, Idol Worship, Extinct, and more. And you're going to be soon to be a host of a brand new show. And before we get into all that, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I went to school for pre-med, and that worked out. So I
found a cure for it, though. At least pre-med.
Yes, I found the cure for pre-med. It's become an actor. So in college I started taking acting classes to sort of blow off steam, and realized I really fell in love with it. And then moved to New York right after I graduated, because I had been auditioning for jobs on the weekends and booked a couple of them, and moved back to New York and haven't looked back.
Wow, that is amazing. And I guess you kind of got the bug. And did the doctors check out and say, was it the acting bug? Did you get checked, or did you know it thanks to pre-med?
I think my dad's a doctor. I think he knew I always had the acting bug, but I think I went, oh, that's not a choice, so we're not going to do that. And then one day I went, oh, I guess it's what's happening.
and of course, maybe you can tell everybody, how do you know you have the actor's bug or whatever bug? And maybe you can just tell everybody what it is and what's the cure for it and what to do. Maybe you can just do a little explaining here.
Ooh, yeah. I think it's a little different for all the different types of performers. I think for me, getting behind a character and the idea of really understanding why people do what they do was a major factor for me. So I suppose I could have gone into sociology or something like that, or psychology, and been almost as happy or just as happy. But I think for me, the curiosity was always, that person's doing it differently than me. Why? And really getting excited about the exploration of that. So I think for me, somewhere really early on when I was doing choirs and other things like that, and meeting just my very, very unusually large interest in people, I think it ended up being what ended up being the fit. And again, I've had the acting bug since Lord knows how long, but went to school for pre-med. So I think maybe there's no cure, but there are a lot of professions that have acting elements. Like, my husband's a school teacher, teaching is, 5 shows a day. So like, there's a lot of different ways to be creative that way. And and not necessarily need to go and, do the formal acting thing and all of those things if you're not super inclined to the lifestyle that accompanies it, which is rough at times, to say the least.
Makes you think of that Spider-Man bite. Once you get that Spider-Man bug, it's like you can't get rid of it. It's like it's there for life. But in this case, it's a good way. That's what I'm more thinking of. So
yes.
or maybe you do a video on that too. And you also did some videos as well too. It gets to some of the episodes. You also played in Looming Tower, Jessica Jones. That reminds me, Dead Layer, Idol Worship, Extinct and more. Maybe tell us about some of those roles and which ones you liked.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly loved all of them. I like to say to people in my circles that I do big parts in little things and little parts in big things. And as my career has grown, that moves even more. I started doing slightly bigger parts and slightly bigger things. I think my two favorite projects are the one I'm working on right now, which is Adulting with Jane, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot, and also Looming Tower, which was a limited series on Hulu that came out a couple of years ago that starred Jeff Daniels and Peter Sarsgaard. And there were two reasons why I love that job. The first is that that was the first time that I was a regular on a show where I had a character and I was in the studio a lot. I really got to feel like I was part of that family and that storytelling and that experience. And the second reason is because it's about 9/11, and it was the first, it's not the first necessarily time that it was talked about, but I remember 9/11, as do many of us, and I felt that the story was needed to be told. So I really felt a connection to the material itself that I felt like people really needed to kind of see and understand what it was that was going on that led us to a position where we ended up getting struck by 9/11. And I think to me it was really important that story be told, and it was to the rest of the cast and crew as well. So I really felt a part of something that felt important.
And with your experience in 9/11, being in New York as well too, did your story about 9/11 say where were you on this day on 9/11? Did that factor play into that series?
A little bit. I think it was more of a sort of fictionalized version of what really was going on between the FBI and the CIA. Based on the novel by the same name. I think it was largely based in fact, and they did do a little bit of hearkening to that, and just especially in the 10th episode, which I happen to think was the most beautiful episode of the series, where they started showing the different angles that people were seeing it from. So I think they did hit it. That wasn't really their major focus, but you saw 18 different ways that people saw the towers fall. And one of them or two of them looked exactly like the screen that I saw it on when I was in high school, and we were watching it, incredulously from across the country on the screen, saying, "What do we do? Do we go home? Do we stay here? Do we need to work?" And I think that hopefully resonated with many, many people the way that it did with me.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people had that same dilemma when the towers fell. And then I remember my 9/11 story, although I was in Chicago at the time. I was taking my kids to school, and it's the same school where I worked at, where I listened to on the radio where the first tower hit. And I thought, this has got to be some Mancow or Howard Stern's like, who would do something stupid like that? And then the second time it hit, I went, okay, I mean, who's drunk enough to drive an airplane like that or fly into it? Third time, I'm like, what's going on here? Is this a joke? And then the fourth one, I simply said, this is just absolutely crazy. And we're talking about it. Nobody could focus on work that day. It's like 9/11 was just on everyone's minds. We're trying to figure out, who was there at the time and who was in New York and who were in the towers, and everybody's just sharing stories. And not to say this, I had a couple of people were indirectly involved, but still, it does have an impact on what can happen in New York split second like that, 9/11.
Absolutely.
Right. And of course, you also have been in Jessica Jones as well, too. That reminds me. And I'm trying to think which other ones you like to talk about before we get to Adulting with Jane.
They all have a little bit of a different story. Jessica Jones, I was only on for a short while, and that was very fun. It's a very popular show, so people were excited that I was on the show, because they knew the show. But that, I didn't really have too much experience with that actual, set. That reminds me was my first big show that I both was a producer and an actor on. So I was the lead role in that as well. And we wrote it, and this one I didn't create myself. I created with a group of 4 people. And we decided that it was kind of fun to write about sort of a family that, like, you know how when you get together with people that are in your family and things just happen to you that don't happen with anybody else because they're your family and you're willing to be a little extra crazy around your family and this sort of thing. So we really wrote it sort of as a tribute to our families, because we all have families like that where we get into crazy situations, and only because we trust each other and are willing to have a little fun in the process. So that was my first big show that I was behind the scenes for, and it was pretty much effectively the start of my producing career, as well as my acting career. And so we only got to run for a season for that one, just because web series were a little ahead of their time, and it was a little hard to get people to pay attention, although it did quite well. And then after that, some of the other things that I've done as a producer, one of them you mentioned, Dead Layer, was Cameron Douglas's first film back into the public. So he did this film with us in New York, and I produced that. So it's been quite an experience over the last 6 or 7 years, both producing and acting, and kind of juggling both of those careers. And sometimes they come together, and that's great, and sometimes they don't, and I'm just the producer or I'm just the actor.
That sounds amazing. Where can we find your works like Looming Tower, Jessica Jones? That reminds me of more. Where can we find those?
So Looming Tower is Hulu, and it's listed pretty much among the limited series. It's one of the bigger ones they've had ever. So very easy to find. Jeff Daniels. Jessica Jones, I think, is even more popular than Looming Tower, is Netflix. That reminds me, the best place to find it is to search it on either YouTube or Vimeo. So you put it in the search box. We used to have a website for it, and it's been so long, we just put the videos on some of the more free areas. Oh, actually, that reminds me, it's on Prime now too, Amazon Prime. And then Adulting with Jane is also on Amazon Prime.
That's fantastic. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but first listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with actress and CEO of Intent Entertainment and more, Jenny Paul, here on the Mike Wagner Show, talking about some of her works like in Looming Tower, Jessica Jones. That reminds me, Dead Layer, and more as well too. And before we get to talking about Adulting with Jane, which is on Amazon Prime, and there was something I forgot to ask you. What was that one moment that precisely influenced you to get into acting? That was something I forgot to ask you.
Oh, I don't know if there was a moment, one specific, but I think the show that kind of set the stage, pardon my pun, for me to do this for a career. I did Funny Girl in high school, and I actually played the Funny Girl's about Fanny Bryce. It's a musical, and I played Fanny Bryce's mother in the show, who is the second lead in the show. And I think sometime when I was learning that role, and again, high school, and I was doing it for fun more than anything, I sort of felt a comfort that I don't know that I'd ever felt in my life before. At points when I was very young, I was very talkative and extroverted, and then I was pretty shy through school. And so I think I felt more at home doing that than I felt pretty much doing anything. And I think it took me a long time to discover what that feeling was and how to recognize it. But that's what I kept coming back to when I kept coming back to acting, was that I just felt comfortable there. And it was just an ease that didn't exist in so many other parts of my life.
It sounds like you found a really good niche as well, too. And who are some of your favorite actors and comedians and writers and movie stars growing up?
I have so many now. Growing up, I think I liked all the ones that are like super super famous now that were sort of famous, or I really liked, and I don't know if this is a strange thing or not. I really like the people that are kind of now in their 60s and 70s. Growing up, so I watched every sitcom there was on Nick at Night. That was a thing I did for sure. And anything that had to do with musicals was a big deal for me. But I loved Lucy and Dick Van Dyke and Bob Newhart and all of these people that were not of my time really, but they were the people that I really learned, what this looked like. Anything that was a comedy. I loved, I'm trying to remember Taxi. I loved Taxi. My favorite was Jim Ignatowski and, Andy Kaufman and Mary Lou Henner I loved, and Danny DeVito. And I just grew up on these people that weren't necessarily the people I was supposed to be growing up on, but I certainly loved them. And then people that are kind of more my contemporaries, like Kenan Thompson from SNL. He was definitely a child actor who was everywhere and loved him. And then, the more traditional actresses like Annette Bening, Meryl Streep, Emma Thompson, at that time anyway, I loved watching all of these people, and I kind of just ate it all up no matter what it was.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like taking up adulting as well too, and we'll go ahead and talk about adulting with Jane at last. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Check the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with actress Jenny Paul here on the Mike Wagner Show. He's also CEO of Intent Entertainment, Penny Pants Production, co-founder of 511 Productions as well too. And we get to the famous comedy sketch that I love watching. It's on Amazon Prime. It's Adulting with Jane. And let's talk about Adulting with Jane, and how did that get started?
So I think all of these different elements the interesting thing about Adulting with Jane is it's not really fiction and it's not really fact. So basically what we're doing is we're taking this sort of niche of web series and comedy sketch, and we're merging it with this very, very not recent how-to video craze on YouTube. So people go and look how to do this, how to do that on almost anything if they want to figure out how to do something. So what we decided was we thought we would teach people how to do things, but make it funny. So Jane is a random girl, and to some degree an everyday Jane that is living her life in her late 20s, early 30s. And she's, things just happen to her the way they happen to anybody else. But when she needs to figure something out that's sort of adulting related, so, changing a tire, sewing a button, anything like that, if she doesn't know how to do it, instead of having to go to Google like everybody else, these magical, funny influencers appear, these experts appear out of nowhere to talk to her and teach her how to sew the button or change the tire. And so that is where the comedy of the show comes from. And it's very, for an adult show, it's very wholesome in a lot of ways, but it's also very self-referential and sarcastic as well. So, it's kind of our Sesame Street for adults. So basically that's sort of how it all came about, is that we were seeing that there were these two big major things, and also seeing that people that are millennial and Gen Z that are sort of missing those home ec elements that our parents and our slightly older friends learned in school. And I remember I took one home ec class in 7th grade, and they canceled it the year after I took it, which means that nobody younger than me got home ec. And so I think that's part of what this is that this generation of people not only doesn't know how to do these things necessarily, but also it's such a time of convenience that the thought, if you pop a button off your shirt, isn't immediately, okay, let me go find a needle and thread. The thought is, let me go to H&M right now and buy a new shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we're coming from with all of these different things. And now with COVID and everything else, that's not an answer anymore. It's not just that easy to go. I mean, I guess you could order another shirt, sure. But at the same point, why not just sew the button back on? And I think that's where people kind of are in their headspace of trying to figure out ways to be, conservative with their money and figure out ways to be self-servient in ways so that they don't have to depend on somebody else or some other corporation or anything else to fix the problems that they have, especially if they're kind of on the small scale.
Mm-hmm. And you also have creating space with Cindyology. You can just tell us about that. That was a hilarious one. I like that one.
So that's one of my favorite episodes. Cindy is a personal organizer out of Miami and is one of the most delightful people you'll ever meet in your life. And, as with all sort of Marie Kondo-esque people, she is really, really good at making things look beautiful. So basically the thought behind that episode is that we wanted to bring Marie Kondo and that sort of feel into things because people are always very frustrated with how their houses are organized. And, when we as a staff believe that, if your space reflects what you want it to, then your life is going to reflect what you want it to a degree. Like everything's going to feel a little better if your space is organized in a way that makes you happy. So we brought in Cindy to come do this episode, and we focused on her 3 C's. She's Cindyology, so we focused on her 3 C's. Clean, categorize, and contain. So the idea being is you get all your stuff in one place and clean all of the crevices and nooks and whatever, and then categorize all the things and then contain them in their various places, not too dissimilar from Marie Kondo and other organizers and their mantras as well. And we also featured in that episode a company that we love called Project Repat, where they take people's old t-shirts and make quilts out of them. So we kind of made that part of it as well, where we basically, here's one solution for all the millennials that have 75,000 shirts from their high school prom that they don't want to get rid of, but never wear, of course, because when are you going to wear your high school prom t-shirt? And so using it and making, kind of translating it into a keepsake instead of into either garbage or getting, or just having to take up space. So I think we didn't get very far with it because, we're only a 3-minute show. It's a sketch, but getting creative about those ideas and how to make things work in your own house was sort of the goal there.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the other ideas you got coming up? Maybe I could think of a few, maybe like, what to do if your zipper breaks, or you got a hole in your jeans, or let's say your cell phone breaks, or let's say the dog throws up, what upcoming episodes you got planned?
So the ones that are out on Prime right now are the creating space, like you said, how to go to the theater, which is kind of funny. We're not going to need that for a little while, I don't think, but it's still cool, theater etiquette for people that don't do live theater. And then, yeah, exactly. And then the third was how to change a tire, which I love that episode. It's ridiculous. But the next one that we already put out on adultingwithjane.com, but has not arrived at Prime yet, is called Don't Panic. And we purposefully wrote that one to be something that was COVID accessible and important for COVID. So the one that just came out is about managing a panic attack if you're going to have one, or helping your friend if they're having one, and being able to both identify what that is and help somebody sort of untrap themselves in the thought processes that bring people to having panic attacks. Mm-hmm. So that's the most recent. And then we're working on for the fall, and we're trying very hard to figure out how to keep everybody COVID safe, because when we did the panic episode, we did it all remote, which was insane, but we were able to get it done. It's very much harder to do it that way. But we're trying to figure out how to how to make a basic soup for the winter. So instead of, Campbell's or something else, you can just sort of, dump all the ingredients into a pot and actually make a good soup. So that's the first one. The second one is planned to be how to, basically we haven't kind of tailored it exactly, but we're working on a sexual intimacy consent episode. So nothing super dirty, nothing like that. But the idea of communication with your partner in order to make everybody feel comfortable in the moment that they're possibly deciding to get intimate. So we're working very hard to keep that one both PC and PG, but also important because that is very much a topic that people are needing. And then the third episode that we're working on is how to clean a wine stain. So back to the really practical stuff. So yeah, so we've got a couple of things coming down the pike, and hopefully we'll be able to get them done if we can figure out a way to keep everybody safe doing them.
That is amazing. You've got a lot of ideas on the shelf, and I love to see it succeed. And where can we find Adulting with Jane at?
So Prime, but also adultingwithjane.com has the version that is interactive. So our show on the website is actually interactive. You can actually click within the video. So it's very cool to check it out.
That is amazing. We'll talk about you being a host of a brand new series and more, but first listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with actress Jenny Paul, the host of Adulting with Jane here on the Mike Wagner Show. Very, very fantastic series. If you haven't seen Adulting with Jane, check that out on Amazon Prime and more. And you're also going to be a soon-to-be host of a program called Spark Notes, AP Literature Test Prep Series. And tell us more about that.
Oh, well, I'm not sure actually that that's going to happen, but I'm crossing my fingers that it is. So we shot a pilot for Spark Notes, the company, that basically it's a teaching hosting. So basically teaching kids that are in AP Lit in high school how to get better at their content for the test.
Okay. All right. Well, I just happen to know that and just keep everybody. And you're also very business minded as well, too. You're CEO of Intent Entertainment, Penny Pants Production, co-founder of 511 Productions. And tell us about that and what inspired you to start those companies.
So I think so Penny Pants is my company that is now Intent Entertainment. But basically, each time that you do a film or that you develop a project, you have to back it with a corporation. Usually people choose to do an LLC, that sort of thing. So what had ended up happening is I started my own LLC, was called Penny Pants, to help other people with really good ideas kind of bring their ideas to the forefront and help them produce their ideas the same way that when I produced That Reminds Me, which was my first show, everybody came to help me learn how to do this. So my sort of thought and intent in all of that was to help other people develop their ability and their ideas and their ability to actually produce so that they could bring their ideas and their things to the world. So it was sort of I want to be able to help people and reciprocate all of the help that I got when I first started. And then after a couple of years, that morphed into me working with around five of the same people. So that's where that particular company came from, is the five of us joined forces to produce. So we produced a handful of things, including that Dead Layer movie I talked about with Cameron Douglas. And basically the five of us were sort of teamed up to do that. And a few of our members have moved to other parts of the country, but we still occasionally produce under that thing as well. And then Intent was sort of the same, like I said, as Penny Pants, but it became more of a formalized company a few years down the road when I started doing more formal projects and working with the people that I'm working with more formally. So basically, the whole idea behind any of these companies was to create work and get it seen. And
where can we find your companies at?
IntentEntertainment.net is that one. And then the others are on Instagram and Facebook if you want to find us. Everybody's an independent producer, but the best way to find any of us, actually, since most of us actually are working on on Adulting with Jane is to go to adultingwithjane.com and email us, and we're there.
That sounds great. Once again, we're with actress, entrepreneur, CEO Jenny Paul here on the Mike Wagner Show of Adulting with Jane. You've been absolutely fantastic. Love to have you back on. Just a few more things here, and we're part of the adult on this one. And what can we expect from you guys in 2021 and beyond?
Well, we're just hoping that we can sustain, the business model of being able to do this show. So we reach out to a lot of corporate partners that we think are good fits. So, for instance, I mentioned Project Repat on our most recent episode, Don't Panic. Our partner was Talkspace. And basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring good information and a lot of, smiles to people. So if we can continue to get great partners and sustain what we're trying to do, then we want to do more of it.
That sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to a lot of great projects from you, Guy, and wish you all the best. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career, Jenny?
Ooh, biggest influence in my career.
Do we have to stand on
that? Right now, I'm going to go with there's an actress in New York who is a personal mentor of mine, who I think is absolutely wonderful. She was in musicals and television for years and years, and still is, Joanna Gleason. So she's been nothing but wonderful to me as both a mentor and a friend. And so just, getting that positive energy and support, and just feeling like there's somebody out there that does what I do that succeeded at it is I think half the battle. So I'll give that one to her today.
Sounds great. And I do that too. And I'm sure Jane agrees. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
About acting? If you're going to act, you better be ready to do 1,000 other things. So you can make it work, but you got to be ready to whatever your strengths are: producing, teaching, writing, directing, whatever they are, figure out what they are and be prepared to do all of them, because it is tough to make a living as an actor. Not impossible, but it is tough.
Right. We understand that. And you're doing a great job of it. Great encouragement, and looking forward to him in soon. Once again, actress, entrepreneur, CEO Jenny Paul, also of Adulting with Jane on the Mike Wagner Show. A very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having again soon. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people check out your videos? And also, where can people check out Adulting with Jane?
Well, I'll say the website again. Adultingwithjane.com is number one. That version of the show is the most interesting and cool to play with. Like I said, it's interactive. If you want to find me, I'm jennypaul.info as a producer or an actor. And if you want to watch Amazon, or if you want to watch Adulting with Jane on TV and not on the internet, then Amazon Prime. Search Adulting with Jane and you will find it.
We will do so. Once again, Jenny, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely great. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. Love you back on 2021 and beyond. And let's go adult with Jane in the meantime.